So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. You back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Monday, July 19th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Monday, July 19th here today. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend, coming off another big weekend in sports. Yankees do end up playing throughout the weekend after that Thursday COVID situation. They do end up playing Friday, Saturday, and obviously they finished it off last night. And I guess if you want to call this a series win for the New York Yankees, you can. It was supposed to be a 4-game set. Thursday's game obviously got canceled. That will be made up later in the year in August, I believe. So that will be a make-up game later in the season. And as we all know, the New York Yankees went out and won 2 of 3 from the Boston Red Sox. And, I mean, it is really big for the New York Yankees to go out and win 2 of 3. So, you know, out of this 13-game stretch, that one of the games got postponed. So I guess you can kind of say out of this 12-game stretch now, right now the Yankees are 2-1. So right now the Yankees are off to a better start than I would think 95 of the Yankee fan base expected. Definitely me. I did not expect them to do this good, especially against the Boston Red Sox. The way they did it with the players they had. And also after that first game. I mean, after the game on Friday where they got shut out and they only got 3 hits. I mean, that I think was something that was an eye-opener. And that was something where, like, I was like, all right, is this really going to be how it is? Like, this is going to be a long series. And it's sure enough, on Saturday, Garrett Cole throws a gem, goes out. Technically a complete game because it got, obviously, it got delayed and then ended up, they just, postponed the rest of the game due to rain. But Cole, did his job, and Cole looked like he was going to come out for the 7th inning, and it looked like when he was going to go out for the 7th inning, he was going to try to throw another inning. So technically a complete game for Cole. They won on Saturday, and then they won again yesterday with a slugfest yesterday, scoring 9 runs. And no, it was not all the big guys in the top of the order. It was the guys that were in the bottom of the order, 7, 8, and 9ers that were really making a difference in this game. And it's the Greg Allens of the world. It's the Ryan Lamars of the world. It's those guys that are making a difference. And those are the guys that are going to get called up. Those are the guys that are getting an opportunity, and it's great to see. And the Yankees right now head into the off day feeling pretty good about themselves with in a very interesting situation, missing some of your best players, and they are finding ways to win, and that's all that matters. The Mets lost Mets lost the series, rather. They were able to win yesterday. A very wild game yesterday for the New York Mets. I didn't watch it. I saw some of it, but I didn't see the whole game, rather. But I shouldn't say I didn't watch it, because I did see some of it, but I didn't, the whole game. And the Mets, they had a wild game. So in the first inning, Taijuan Walker, there was that foul ball, or what was supposed to be a foul ball. On replay, it looked like a foul ball. I would tend to say it was probably a foul ball. And you know how I am. I don't like the Mets, so it's probably not a great call when I'm in agreement to the Mets, because I thought it was a foul ball. It looked like a foul ball, but either way, they called it fair, and Taijuan Walker got it, kind of tossed it out like a play, and the guys just kept on running. Runners kept on running, and Taijuan Walker was all mad. He was angry, and they're just running around. And this is like the second time we saw something weird in Pittsburgh, because earlier in the year you had that Javier Baez play where he hit it. I forget. It might have been like a really slow roller. They threw it to first, and then Baez ran all the way back to home plate, and then the first baseman, instead of just stepping on the bag, he ran at Baez. You all remember the play. So some interesting stuff, and then the Mets ended up coming back and winning, I believe, 7-6? So they win. A very bad series for the Mets, though, mostly. They lose the series against Pittsburgh. It was an ugly... It was a very big come from behind win, but it was an ugly win at the same time, because there's a lot of things that happened. Manager got ejected. Taijuan Walker got taken out in the first inning. So definitely for the Mets, it was good for them just to get out of Pittsburgh and just forget about that series. That's one of those series that you crumble up in a piece of paper and throw out the window. Yes, you got the final win. You were able to salvage the final game, but that's one of those series you just forget about. So the Mets won yesterday. They lose the series, though. Yankees obviously win the series. And, let's get to the topics for today's podcast. Bucks, Suns. Bucks take a 3-2 lead. So they right now are one game away from winning the NBA Finals. Pretty wild, to say the least. And, we'll see how that all plays out. So Yankees win the series. I will talk about that. Yankees get the series win against Boston. I'll get into all the games, get into kind of just, the New York Yankees right now, because are we where we want to be? Definitely not. We are still 48-44 and 7 games back from first place. But it is definitely a little bit of a sign of hope. And I'm going to talk about this because I'm very happy about the Yankees that they won the 2 of 3. I am. I'm happy. I always say I love winning. I can't stand losing. I hate losing more than I love to win. I've always said that because losing sticks with you. You always think about losing. When you get the win, you're like, all right, good win. Now let's focus on the next game. Losing, it just sticks with you until that next game. Wins, it's nice. You enjoy it, and then boom, it's on to the next game. Losing sticks with you. So Yankees obviously get the series win, and I'm happy about that. But we got to keep this up because there's been a couple times this season where the Yankees have shown promise, and then we start to fail again. So the Yankees just need to keep this up. I'm going to get into it. They got the series win. It's the minor leaguers. It's the guy that we called up that got the job done. It's the guys that are trying to earn a roster spot. It's the guys that are trying to make a difference, and they did. We'll get into that. Then some more football stuff. As I mentioned, I'm going to start talking a little bit more about football as training camp starts to get closer and closer. We are currently just a couple days away from a couple of the training camps starting. I think the Cowboys Steelers start a little earlier because they have the Hall of Fame game. I know there's a couple other, but we're definitely just about a week or two away from, the rest of the NFL getting fully underway in training camps. So that's great to see. This isn't really anything about training camp. This is just something that's going to be a talk throughout the rest of the offseason here. Stephon Gilmore and the NFL and the Patriots right now are still on the opposite ends of the contract issue. Stephon Gilmore wants a new contract. He wants more money than what he's getting. Patriots kind of seem to be not unwilling to give him the money, but they kind of seem to be playing the patient game. And Stephon Gilmore's like, I want it now, and they're starting to become a little bit of an issue between the Stephon Gilmore and the New England Patriots in terms of contracts. So I want to get into that, talk about whether or not I think they should go all out on Gilmore, whether or not I think they should give him the money, whether or not I think they should trade him, because there's been rumors throughout the offseason that they traded him, and today there was a new report that they are still far apart from a deal. So I'll get into that, get into what it means, and then we'll finish up the podcast with a New York sports update. Finally, baseball, that stuff's back on. Yankees, day off today, obviously, as they get ready for their little 2-game set against Philly starting tomorrow. Mets will open up a series against the Reds. I believe that is a 3-game set against the Reds. I mentioned this earlier when we were obviously, I mentioned this earlier, so they will open up when I was talking about the Mets update, when I was doing the Mets season update. I talked about this Red series being a pretty big series, so the Mets will head to Cincinnati to play the Reds, and for a 3-game set there, they will start today. First game of a 3-game set. Yankees get the day off today, and will welcome Philly into town tomorrow. So Monday's usually a travel day coming out of the weekend, throughout the MLB. So that's what I got for the podcast. Obviously, coming out of the weekend, rather. A lot to get to. And, with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So the New York Yankees win 2 out of 3 from the Boston Red Sox. They lose game 1 4-0. It wasn't a good game for them at all. They win Saturday in a 6-inning game, obviously, with it being shortened by the rain, 3-1. Garrett Cole went out and threw very well. Had a very good, pitched very well for the second straight game. And he was going to go back out there for a 7th inning. So it's not like this was his limit. He was going to go back out there for the 7th inning, and he already had 11 strikeouts, so he could have really loaded up the gun with more strikeouts. And then you had the Yankees win 9-1 on Sunday. Obviously, yesterday they win 9-1, and they do it off of a lot of big bats. And, the New York Yankees right now, right, these are must-win games for the Yankees. We mentioned this earlier a couple weeks ago. I mentioned this going into the All-Star break. I mentioned this. I've been mentioning this for a while now. These are must-win games for the New York Yankees. This is something that you can't sit here and say, oh, if we don't win these games, we'll be all right. We can, still buy at the deadline. No, these are must-win games for the Yankees. We talked about it This series against the Red Sox that was supposed to be 4, obviously got shortened because of the COVID situation, but it still was 3 games. Then the 2 against Philly, that's a golden opportunity. Philly's not a bad team, but that's a golden opportunity to at least take 1. If you could take 2, that would be golden. At least take 1. Don't lose both. If you lose both, that could be super deflating to a team. Then you have 4 more against the Red Sox back in Boston, and you have 3 in Tampa. And guess what? That leads right up to July 30th, which is the MLB trade deadline. This is going to decide the Yankee season. We've mentioned this already. So, the Yankees, this was a big series for the Yankees. And I think this was one of the relatively bigger series because this is the one coming out of the All-Star break. This was the one that we wanted to see how the team would come out of the All-Star break, if anything would change. They got some rest. They got some time probably with their families and stuff like that. They got some getaway thing. They got a time to really just think about their play and stuff like that. And now they come back in, you're kind of in a fresh mindset, and the COVID situation hits on Thursday, postpones that game. And then you play with a very interesting roster on Saturday, and then obviously yesterday, or on Friday, Saturday, and yesterday, obviously, they played a very interesting roster. But it seems to be working. And the New York Yankees go out and win 2 of 3 against Boston. And, yes, are the New York Yankees where we want them to be? No, they still aren't. They still are, 7 games back in the American League. They are still 48-44. They're only 4 games above 500. And they are still 3.5 games back from a wild card. And actually, they're only 2 games back in the loss column from a wild card spot. They're now 3.5 back. That's how pivotal these games can be. You talk about losing 6 of the next 8 games, your 3.5 game wild card goes to 7 all of a sudden. And now it looks completely in doubt. But the New York Yankees got the job done. And they got the job done off of minor leaguers, off of guys that not many Yankee fans know much about. I myself have heard of those players, but I'm not a guy that knows every single thing about them, knows where they like to hit the ball, what pitches they like, I don't know everything about them. I have heard of these players. I do remember Greg Allen with his time with the Indians. I do know who Hoy Jun Park was just because his name's been rumbling around. Have I ever seen him play in a baseball game? No, the only time I've ever seen him play was, obviously with the Yankees on what I believe that was Friday. He played a little bit of right field. And then obviously you have Tim LaCastro tore his ACL, making an amazing catch. He did tear his ACL, so he's done for the year. And you have to call up Ryan Lamar. The Yankees, these past 4 days, have gone through what it seems like, and Garrett Cole said it the perfect way. I forget, he said it when they got hit by like a microscopic semi-truck. It felt like the team just got drilled with something that they just not see coming. It wiped out 6 players. 4 of those players having 5 of those players actually having very big impacts on this team. And Kyle Gashioka and Nestor Cortez. Nothing against Wandy Peralta, but he has not had as big of an impact on the team as Judge, Gio, Higgy, Cortez, Loaizaga. Loaizaga is now cleared to play. He is back with the Yankees now. He got over the COVID, so he is back playing. I don't think he got in there last night, but he is back. And yeah, this is great to see. And this is all this Yankees team that they threw out there these past 2 games, because you got to admit, right? You can't sit here and say, like Aaron Boone, he can't sit here and say he expected this production out of Ryan Lamar, Greg Allen, and those guys. You cannot sit here and tell me Aaron Boone expected that production. And he might sit there and talk to the media and say, oh yeah, this is what these guys can do. No way. Us as Yankees fans didn't expect it, and I'm sure many other people didn't expect it. But the bottom of the order, the guys that are coming up from the minor leagues, are getting the job done. Those are the guys that are rolling. Those are the guys that are having really good at-bats. Those are the guys that last night, the bottom of the order, Odor, Lamar, Greg Allen, produced 5 of our 8 hits. The next 3 hits came from Torres, Gardner, and LeMahieu. Each had a hit apiece. The 5 of the 8 hits last night in the Yankees game came from the bottom of the order. Odor had 2, including a home run and 2 RBIs. Lamar had 2, including a home run and 2 RBIs. And Greg Allen had a hit and an RBI, and he had 2 runs scored. Oh, and by the way, 7 of the 9 runs scored were by the bottom of the order. The Greg Allens of the world. The Ryan Lamars of the world. Those are the guys that are getting the job done. Those are the guys that are going out, putting together good at-bats, and getting the job done. And I genuinely got the feeling, watching last night's game, like it was just like watching the Yankees back in 2019 when they had all those injuries issues. Remember, that's when Mike Tauchman, and that's when all those guys really started to grow a name for themselves. That was back then. Like you remember that was the year, I forget. It was like the Yankees had 30-something guys going IL or something. It was unbelievable. Everyone remembers that season. It was the next man up mentality. It was, next guy. It was getting so bad that we had guys like Tyler Wade, Mike Tauchman starting in everyday roles. It was getting that bad. That was the 29th. Last night, watching the New York Yankees was just like watching the 2019 Yankees. You got about 2 or 3 of your everyday players, maybe about 4 of them, and then you got just a bunch of other guys from the minor leagues, some other guys like Odor, who usually doesn't play every day, getting to play now every day. Chris Gittins going out there, he had an RBI and a walk, right? The guys like Chris Gittins and all them, those are the guys that are going out there and putting together good at-bats and getting the job done. And the Yankees back in 2019, even through all those injuries, they were winning games. And I do feel like part of this is because a lot of these guys are trying to earn a roster spot. A lot of these guys are trying to not only show the Yankees, but show other teams around the league that, hey, hey, this might be a very small sample size, but I could do some damage. You need me to play in a backup role. These guys are also proving themselves for other teams. Right, there's always teams going around and looking at minor leagues. There's scouts. Each team has so many scouts that they send across America. You go into some of the other, areas of, you go into some other countries and stuff like that. You even get even more and more and more and more. You get more and more and more, prospects out there too. These guys are trying to earn a roster spot, and those are the guys that are getting the job done. It's the guys that just got called up and we're winning 9-1, and we won 9-1 against a very good Boston Red Sox team who we have not beat this entire year except the past 2 games. So we are now 2-7 against the Red Sox on the season, which still isn't great. And we got a day off today, so you got to enjoy this win today. But it's also one of the things where you got to shift your mindset to get ready for tomorrow's game, right? And that's what I always say. Right, the NFL, they do this too. The NFL, they do this. A lot of coaches will say it at the end of a game. It's called the 24-hour rule. Especially in the NFL, it's called the 24-hour rule. Right, if you get a win on a Sunday, 24 hours, right? The next day you come into the building, that win should not be that should not be the focus. The focus should already be on your next opponent. The Yankees got to do the same thing, right? Because these were 2 ginormous wins. I mean, these were wins that after that Friday night game where we got shut out and had 3 hits and went down in order so many innings, it was 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, a hit. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, oh, a hit. Oh, another hit. And then it's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Especially after that game, going into Saturday's game, going into Sunday's game, I did not feel confident at all. Now, Saturday's game, I felt a little bit more confident because Cole was on the mound, but I still didn't feel confident about our offense. And these team got the job done. So, this is great. These are great 2 wins, but now you got to get focused up on Philly. Because those are 2 wins that's... Philly beat us earlier in the year twice, but Philly's a beatable team. You know, they are playing good baseball right now. They're on a roll. They're 7-3 in their last 10, and they're only 2 games back now, first place in the NL East. But I would probably say, I know Philly's not the best team in the league by any means. And Philly's 2 games above 500. They're in a similar situation like the Yankees right now. They are still trying to fight for a wild card spot. In the NL, for them, they're 4 games back in a wild card spot in the loss column and 6 total games back. They're 4 back in the loss column and 6 back overall. So they're also another team that if they can't get the division win, they got to try and find a way to get the wild card. And you look at them, chasing a team like the Mets. These are big games for Philly as well. And the Yankees have big games as well. And I'll tell you what, and it's not going to get lost in the mix, Jameson Taillon, I don't know what it is, but he is a completely different pitcher. Like, all of a sudden, out of the middle of nowhere, he's a different pitcher. Like, remember a couple months ago, or not even a couple months ago, like 5 starts ago, that seems so long ago, when he pitched in Philadelphia, he hit rock bottom. That was the game where they lost DJ LeMahieu, all that stuff, right? DJ LeMahieu had the home run, 7-4, all that stuff. That game Taillon started, he threw, a third of an inning? He recorded 1 out and allowed 4 runs. And he got taken out in the first inning. That was the game where he hit rock bottom. That's a game where he just did not have it. It was terrible. And I was one of those Yankee fans that said to bring him down to minors, not send him down for good, but send him down to make some adjustments with some of his pitching. And Boone was getting asked the question. Some of the other people were talking about it, like what the Yankees did earlier in the year with Herman. They sent him down. They made some adjustments. He was better. He's been very streaky this season. And in Taillon, too, I said send him down, make some adjustments, bring him back up and see if it works. And if it doesn't, well, you got to try to figure out maybe get him into some bullpen games to try to build a confidence, because he was awful. He had an ERA of up until 5.90. He almost had a 6 ERA. And ever since that start, he has been a completely different pitcher. And last night up against a very good Boston lineup, he pitched 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, no runs, no earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. And he recorded the win. 91 pitches, 50 strikes, and he lowers his ERA now to 4.60. 4.60. For a guy that just about a month or two ago, really about a month ago, we were talking about sending him down. Now, those Yankee fans that say trade him. You're not going to get anything for him now. Sending him down, working on adjustments. And I'll tell you what, Taillon definitely has put in the work, because you can't tell me this is just coming naturally. He's definitely fixed something, throughout the 5 days leading up to their start. Right, these guys always, they'll throw. They always get in their routines. He obviously fixed something mechanically, because he's a completely different pitcher. And if you look on here, if you look on his stats here, you look on his game log, his game-by-game log here, right? Let's look at his game log. So ever since that rock-bottom start in Philadelphia, which is where he threw a third of an inning, 4 hits, 4 earned, no earned, one walk, no Ks, and got taken. 5 hits, 4 runs, 4 earned. Got taken out of the game. Right? He got taken out of the game. He threw 34 pitches, was done. The next game against Oakland, pitched well. 4 2/3, 4 hits, 2 earned. They did lose, but he put a decent performance out there. And then you get to Kansas City, throw 6 1/3. Then you get to the Angels. gets 5 1/3. Allowed 5 runs, but 3 home runs, and, he was able to get the 4 strikeouts, was able to get out of a couple jams. They get to Seattle, 7 innings pitched. Then Houston, 6 innings pitched. And then last night again, 5 1/3. So you could say his last 6 starts have been why the Yankees signed Taillon. To go out, be a solid pitcher, not go out and win Cy Youngs, but to go out and be a pitcher that's going to be able to get the job done, give you 5-6 quality innings. He's not going to load up the stat sheet with 15 strikeouts like Garrett Cole can. He's not going to do that, but he's going to pitch to contact. Throughout his career, he's been able to pitch to weak contact. And you even look at the home run numbers. Like earlier in the year, in the month of May, he allowed 6 home runs. Month of June, he allowed 4 home runs. And so far in the month of July, he's only allowed 2 home runs. So you even look at the home runs, he's allowed much less. This season, he's allowed a total of 16 home runs. And you look at it, right? April, 4 home runs. May, 6 home runs. June, he allowed 4 home runs. And so far in July, yes, it's only 3 starts, but he's allowed 2 home runs. And you eliminate that Houston game, and he has not allowed a home run yet in July. So even his home run numbers are down a little bit. And I also think part of that is because he has been able to develop a put-away pitch. And that has been something that the Yankees and us Yankee fans have been talking about for a really long time now. Taillon will get a guy to 2 strikes. And this was what happened actually in Philly. He got guys down to 2 strikes. They would foul a couple balls off. He might throw a ball. He would get into like the 7th pitch at bat. He would not be able to find the put-away pitch. Can't find that put-away pitch. And out of the middle of nowhere, up there it is, double down the line. 0-2 count again. Up, double down the line. Up, hang a slider home run. That's how it was with Taillon. Now, he's developed a put-away pitch. Now, is it Clayton Kershaw's 12-6 curveball when he was in his prime? No. But he does mix in the curveball. His curveballs looked much better. He's mixed in the fastball, which earlier in the year he was leaving down in the zone. That is now up. It's kind of funny because Taillon's one of the rare pitchers out there that since the sticky situation has gone on, he's actually gotten better. Since they eliminated the spider tack, he's gotten better. Now, I believe he never used spider tack. I think this proves that he never used spider tack because he's actually been better since they eliminated it. He never used it, though. There was no evidence. There was nothing. I mean, there was no evidence that he even ever used it. But he's gotten better from it. And yet again, last night, goes out and throws 5 1/3. Now, was he efficient? He did throw 91 pitches. He wasn't greatly efficient. It wasn't able to give him a ton of length, but it was, when he left the game in the 6th inning, they had a 3-run lead, right? And then they put up 4 in the 7th, and then 2 more in the 8th. And you look at the bullpen, they were able to close it down. Chad Green had a 1 2/3, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. Britton struggled a little bit. He struggled a little bit, definitely. It's been weird with Britton. He's been on and off this year. I feel like this is just a little bit of a down year for him with injuries. Then Litke came in, did his job, finished off that inning. Chapman came in. I still don't know if he looks like Chapman, but, he was able to get the job done. And, he pitched an inning, got a strikeout, no hits, no walks, no runs, no earned runs. He didn't allow anything. He threw 10 pitches, 7 of them were strikes. He looked a lot more like Chapman last night. Still, I think he's got to locate the slider a little bit more. His splitter looked really good last night, but the slider definitely got to leave that thing down a little bit. I believe Kevin Pilecki, was the guy who hit his slider or something. I think he left it up and it was at the warning track. Gardner literally had to kind of jump up a little bit on the wall to get it. Definitely got to fix out the slider. But, and then you look at the bottom of the order, and you look at guys like Lamar and Greg Allen. And this is a great series win for the Yankees. This is, as a Yankee fan, I'm very happy about it. Obviously, as a Yankee fan, I still do know that we got a lot more work to do. This is something that, you can't sit here and just reflect on this series for weeks and weeks and weeks now because we got to get right back at it tomorrow. And I am actually glad we have an off day today because I feel like it's much needed because these past 4 days for the Yankees have been wild. You have Thursday, you have the whole COVID situation, everything. Now Friday, you do terrible. You're getting booed at the stadium, all that stuff. you're in a very bad situation, all that. You're missing your star players. Saturday, you have the rain. Cole pitches really well. You do get the job done, but Tim LeCastro tears the ACL. You gotta get another guy to come up and call another guy up. Ryan Lamar. Yesterday, get the job done. Not much really anything crazy yesterday, but even Trey Ambergay or whatever, however you pronounce the name, I'm not great with it. Ambergay, whatever. He left the game with some hamstring soreness or tightness. I don't think it's anything major. So, Cole said it the best. He said it on Friday, I believe. This team really felt, even as a fan, it just feels like this team got hit by something invisible that just whacked them right in the face. It really is. And there was a whole lot of action the past 4 days for the Yankees. So I think it's a much needed day off. A kind of a much needed just refresher. And now, let's focus on Philly. And that's kind of, I think, especially with all the minor leaguers and with everything going on with this team, you just got to take this thing day by day, game by game, inning by inning, pitch by pitch. That's how you got to do it. Right? You can't start looking at the big picture, because if you start looking at the big picture, you still got to realize, we still got 4 against Boston and 3 more against Tampa. But if you just take a game by game by game by game, day by day, pitch by pitch, inning by inning, pitch by pitch, then you can really just focus up and win every game by game. Don't look at the big picture. You got to look at the small picture. And I said that with the Montreal Canadiens when they were trying to make up ground in the series. I'm going to say it again here with the Yankees. Right? If you start looking at the big picture, it's not going to be good. But with all these minor leaguers and all the guys that are coming up and all that, and the whole situation around the roster, you just got to look at the game at hand, the task ahead. Focus on that game, get the job done, and you focus on the next game. And you take it game by game. And I think a much-needed day off today for the Yankees. And, hopefully tomorrow we come out with the same kind of firepower. And, this Yankees team, it definitely seemed like the Yankees team had some energy in them, especially yesterday. Saturday we did, especially after the back-to-back home runs. I felt like after that RBI single by LeMahieu, we got some energy in us, and then Gary hit a home run, and then, Glaber hit a home run. And I also feel like yesterday, I thought there was more. I feel like this team's playing a little bit more energy. I think the minor leaguers, the young guys might be bringing it a little bit. They kind of, coming up here, they're all excited. They're all, pumped up, getting the opportunity to play in pinstripes for the Yankees. I think they're all hyped up about that. Like I said, I think these past 2 games just reminded me kind of 2019. Playing with a lot of, random players and finding ways to get win. And the New York Yankees did that yesterday, and they get the series win. So they win 2 of 3 against Boston. Obviously, day off today, start up a 2-game set tomorrow. And then after that, their next day off will come next Monday. So I'm trying to think. So this is how it kind of is. So Yankees have 6 games in a row up until Sunday. Then they have a day off on Monday. I don't really know when Judge and Gio are going to come back. I would love if they could possibly come back for that Tampa series. Because now you look at it, and I'm not trying to look at the big picture. I'm just trying to think of when they could possibly come back. We're winning. We're winning right now, and we're getting the job done. But, you still want those guys back. I'm just trying to think, when we could possibly get them back. Luckily the Yankees, we have a lot of off days. We have a lot of off days coming up. We have an off day today, obviously. Then we have an off day next Monday. Then I don't believe we have an off day the Monday after that. But still, that's ways down the road there. But the Yankees, I feel like in a way the schedule kind of worked out. Yes, the Yankees are in a very weird situation, but they've they're getting a couple off days here. They get an opportunity to kind of just reset mentally, physically, do whatever you need to do, and come prepared, tomorrow for Philadelphia, for the Phillies, for a 2-game set there. I believe that will be Girardi's first time. No. Well, first time coming back with fans in the stands, because last year Phillies and the Yankees played, but they didn't play with fans, obviously. So no fans in the stands last year, so a little different, but he'll be back for the first time with fans in the stands. I don't know if there's going to be any reception for him. I don't know if there's going to be anything like that. We'll see. Not like anything special at home plate where they give him a plaque in Monument Park, but I don't know if the fans are going to make any reaction to him, but it'll be his first time back at Yankee Stadium with fans. Not first time total because he was back last season, but obviously last season there was no fans allowed in MLB ballparks. So, yes, Yankees get the win. They get the job done in a good series for the New York Yankees. So coming up next here, I want to get into the Stephon Gilmore rumors, his contract situation, and just really kind of what's going on with him and the Patriots, because this is something that's been going on for, I would say, really the entirety of the offseason, really since last season even. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is gonna be something that's gonna boil into training camp, but it's definitely an interesting situation. So I want to get into Stephon Gilmore coming up next. Alrighty, so we welcome you back here. Stephon Gilmore rumors, latest on Patriots defensive back contract holdout and negotiations. So this has been a situation for the New England Patriots that has been going on for a little bit here. I mean, not even just a little bit. I mean, you're talking about something that has been going on for, you could honestly say, the offseason. Now, it hasn't been something that, Gilmore has set a deadline, like, I want a deadline. I want a deal now. This is my deadline, whatever the case may be. This is the deadline to give me a deal. There hasn't really been any, there hasn't been any really sense of, like, we need to get a deal done right now, but there has been a little bit of a sense of urgency, especially coming from Gilmore, that, he would like to get a deal done. He wants to get a new contract. And like I mentioned, this is not something that just popped up today. This has been something that's going on. I found this story interesting, though, that this story just came out today, that they are still not, his contract holdout is still not in a very good situation. It still remains uncertain, because they're not fully agreeing on a contract negotiation. And I don't know what the New England Patriots thought process in this is. I don't know if they have already tried to give him a deal. I don't know if they've tried to negotiate. I don't know if the New England Patriots this offseason spent a ton of money. They spent a ginormous amount of money in the offseason, going out and getting guys like Judon, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Kendrick Bourne. I mean, they went out and got a lot of guys and spent a lot of money. And, oh, by the way, they drafted a new quarterback. They did a lot this offseason. They had a very active offseason. And, they went out and spent a lot of money. Like I mentioned, they went out and got a lot of new guys. It's one of those things where, you don't know if the Patriots right now want to sit here and go all out on Gilmore. Want to go all out and give him a mega deal. Because I would say Gilmore, now, not taking anything away from Gilmore, don't get me wrong, he's had a very good career so far. He obviously was drafted by Buffalo, was with Buffalo for a little bit there. He was good, nothing insane. And we can agree on that. You look at the numbers, he was good. He wasn't top 5 cornerback in the NFL good. Goes to the Patriots, and all of a sudden turns into what a lot of us think the best cornerback in the NFL. Now, last season, he had a little bit of a down year last year. He was not what he did not put up the numbers that he did in 2019. Now, part of that reason could be, the COVID season. It was a down year for really the entire Patriots organization. You obviously, without Brady and stuff like that, last season just did not have the year that many people expected. He also only played 11 games. He missed, he missed 5 games. He only played 11 previously in 2018 and 2019. He played all 16 games. Last year, he only played 11 and struggled a little bit. I don't know if the Patriots right now are in that situation where they want to kind of take a step back and say, hey, look, you played 11 games last season. You only had, you had 30, you had 37 total tackles down from the year before. You only had one interception, completely down from the year before, where you had a career high 6 interceptions. You're in terms of just, in terms of touchdowns and not able to really, guard some of the top guys in the league, was down last season. Now, like I mentioned, he only played 11 games. And the Patriots right now might be going through the thought process of, you know what, let's take this thing slow, let's take a step back, and let's see what we're working with. Because you're going to have to make a decision here. This has been a guy that's been with the team for 4 years now. Obviously, he was with Buffalo for the first 5 years of his career. Like I mentioned, he was good. He was not best cornerback in the NFL good, though. He had a very good season in 2016 with the Bills. He had a pretty solid season in 15 games. 48 total tackles, which is pretty good. He had a pretty good season then. And then, obviously, he goes to the Patriots, and he's been with them for 4 years. Now, this will be his 5th season. Now, he is 30 years old. So, that is one thing, too, that you got to put in the mindset. He's 30 years old, and he will turn 31 in September. So, this is one of those things where, do you want to go out, and pay for a 30-year-old, give him a 3-year deal, and make him one of the highest-paid cornerbacks in the NFL at 30 years old? Or do you want to see what he does this season? If he has a big year, then you go out and give him the money. But he's going to be 31 in September. So it's one of those things where last season he showed kind of his first signs of slowing down a little bit. He only played 11 games. He was not the same Stephon Gilmore that we were used to seeing in the previous 3 years with New England. Even dating back to his time in Buffalo, he wasn't anything special, but he was a cornerback that was, solid. He would do his job. He wasn't anything special. He wasn't anything great. He really blossomed when he went to New England and got into their defensive scheme, got into their system. He really did well there, and he's turned into one of the better cornerbacks in the league. It's just interesting that now, because he's putting the New England Patriots in a tough situation. Like if going into last season, he said, "I want a new deal. Better give me this money." I think the Patriots would jump on it immediately. Considering going into last year, I think we all would agree he was probably the best cornerback in the NFL because he had 3 really good seasons with New England. I think Xavier Howard right now you can consider one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. I still would consider Gilmore a good cornerback, a solid cornerback, one of the better ones. I don't know if he's the best anymore after what he did last season. He had a really big down year. Like I mentioned, only played 11 games, so it was a little difficult there. But, if he asked last season, I want the money, I want this, I want that, New England, I think, gives it to him. Because, he had a 2019 year where he was amazing. I mean, he had a career year. He put up numbers that we've never seen Gilmore put up. He had a big year. So, this is another guy, too, that was locking down some of the better receivers in the league, was locking down some of the guys that, a lot of people talk about as being top receivers in the league. Last season, he wasn't really able to do that. Now, it is the AFC East. Is the AFC East loaded with receivers? Because sometimes that's how this is. Like, sometimes if a division has a really good receiver, you'll see other teams go out and just try to build on cornerbacks. Right? Because, like you look at, let's just say, I don't know, what's a good division? You're right, the NFC West. With the Niners, the Seahawks, DK Metcalf, right? A guy that you got to watch out for. Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins, another guy you got to watch out for. Now, Niners is a little different because it's not a receiver, but it's a tight end, George Kittle. Got to watch out for him. In the AFC East, you don't really have that. You have one receiver in the AFC East that is really dominant. That's Stephon Diggs. Other than that, there's not many dominant receivers in the AFC East. You look at the Patriots, they got Kendrick Bourne and guys like that, nothing amazing. You look at the Dolphins, they did pick up Will Fuller, but he's a guy that he's a guy that's not on, Stephon Diggs' level. Diggs is a top 3 receiver in the league. I think you can make the argument he's the second best receiver in the league. I think you can make the argument he's the best in the league. The Jets, obviously, it's a young core, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, but they're not Stephon Diggs. So, you look at the AFC East, and if you are the Patriots, you kind of think like, you might want to take this thing slowly and say, you know what, like, there's not 5 receivers in the AFC East that are super scary. There's one really big receiver. That's Stephon Diggs. And he's one of the best receivers in the league. But it's not like every team you play in the AFC East is got a dominant receiver. So if you are the Patriots, you might say, let's approach this thing slow and see what we're working with here. Also, a guy who's 30 years old, like I mentioned, coming off of a injury seasoned, coming off a season with 11 games played, coming off a season where his production was a major drop off. Now he did miss 5 games, so who knows what he could have did in those 5 games that he missed. But I just don't know if this is the perfect time to give a guy a big deal, make him one of the highest paid cornerbacks rather, after coming off of a season where he went way below expectations and struggled immensely. I just don't think the Patriots are going to go out and try to sign this guy to a mega deal after they just went out and spent a ton of money in the offseason. I think the Patriots are smart maybe to take this thing slow. I could also see them because, it was a weird year. Maybe he just had a down year, and maybe he still will be dominant. But for a guy that's 30 years old, does he deserve to be one of the highest paid cornerbacks? It's interesting. And what's weird about this all, because it's not like Gilmore. Like some guys, right? We see some guys, they're like, I need a deal now, right? Give me a deal now. I'm not, I'm holding out. Gilmore, it's kind of been like he wants a deal, but he's never like firmly put on the table like, I need a deal. This is the deadline. Like if I'm not, I'm gonna hold out. He hasn't really said that yet. I feel like there's been a lot of little things leading up to it, and I think a lot of us fans are waiting for him to go out and say, you know what, I'm holding out. I'm holding out until I get a new deal. I think a lot of us are waiting for that. I also think a lot of people are waiting for the Patriots to go all out on him. But other teams around the league, you got to see this, because if they have a contract issue and the Patriots don't want to sign him and he wants a new deal, maybe another team goes out and tries to go and snag him, strike a trade, something like that. I'm not saying that they will trade him, but it's definitely an interesting situation there. And a guy right now he's set to make $7 million this season. And that's what he says, a number he never planned to play for. So he obviously wants more money. And the Patriots will fine him if he does hold out a training camp. So that's another interesting situation. But he's coming off of he's coming off of a season that was a little disappointing. And, he's coming off of a season in 2019 where he was really good, but he's coming off a season that was definitely disappointing. 2019 was really good. Last season was disappointing. I think, is a guy who he wants the money. He definitely does. He wants what he's worth. But, after last year, you look at the big picture if you're New England, and are you like, do we go all out on a guy who played 11 games last season and had a down year? Right? That's something interesting. If we were talking about this going into last year, no brainer, I would have said, give this guy the money. That's how sports are. That's how sports are. One season could completely change your mindset on whether or not a player is a top caliber at his position. Now, like I said, don't get me wrong, I still believe Gilmore's a very good cornerback. I still believe he's one of the better ones out there. But does he deserve to be the highest paid cornerback in the league after last year? I don't know. Let's prove that you could still get the job done. Let's prove it. Let's prove that you could still go out and get the job done. And let's prove that he could still work with all the new guys on that defensive side of that football. And it was, in general, it was just a down year for the New England Patriots last season. They went 7-9? It was a down year in general. For the New England Patriots to go 7-9 is a rarity. That's something we don't get to see often. Obviously, with Brady leaving, Cam Newton coming in, Newton had a bad year. It was a bad season overall. It was a down year for the Patriots. So it's not like the Patriots excelled last season and Gilmore was bad. The entire team had a down year. So maybe this is just one of those things where he had a down year. He still wants to prove himself as a top quarterback. And if you do pay him the money, he's going to deserve it. But this is the guy who he's going into his This is a guy who is going into his, He's played 5 with Buffalo. For this guy that's going into his 10th year in the league. He's already 30 years old. Do you give a guy all this money? I think there's definitely, I think there's definitely, I think it's definitely interesting because you got guys like Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, and, obviously Stephon Gilmore, who all I think are some of the top ones. James Bradbury with the Giants have had very good. But I think you have to kind of look at it as, is there an exceeding quality in Gilmore's game that sticks out among the rest that gives you that feeling that they should give him the money? Is there, that's kind of what the Patriots mindset should be. If you compare him to the top 7 cornerbacks in the league, is there an exceeding trait that makes him stick out among the rest that should give you the reason to give him a major payday? Not just an extension, but he wants a big extension. For a guy that's 30 years old going to his 10th year, is it something where you give him a 2-year big deal and hey, if it doesn't work out, it's 2 years, that's done. But a guy that, this season will be 31. He's 30 right now, September 19th, he turns 31. So he will be 31, but, he'll be 31, what? If the first, actually, September, 12th, 13th are the first games. So he'll be 31 by week 2. So what do you want to do? Patriots got to make a decision. And something that definitely is going to, I think, leak into training camp. So Stephon Gilmore rumors latest on Patriots defensive back contract holdout negotiations. The status of New England Patriots cornerback Stephon Gilmore reportedly remains uncertain because of an impasse in contract extension negotiations. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated reported there has been no recent progress in talks with Gilmore heading into the last year of his deal. Gilmore is set to make $7 million this season, a number he never planned to play for, per Breer. The Patriots will fine Gilmore $50,000 per day. $50,000 rather, I said $5,000. Read it wrong. $50,000 per day if he chooses to hold out of training camp. It's possible with Gilmore returning from a quad injury, he could choose to drag out his recovery after reporting to the team as negotiations play out. I just want what I'm worth, however that plays out, Gilmore told NFL reporter Josina Anderson earlier in July. Every player should be paid what they're worth. That's just how it is. The best case scenario for all involved is to work out some type of new deal, even if it simply involves giving Gilmore a raise for the 2021 season. The Patriots could offer Gilmore a deal similar to the one they gave Tom Brady in 2019, which allowed him to become a free agent the next offseason. With the start of the training camp looming, there isn't much time to find common ground. Given the all-in nature of the Patriots offseason, the team might want to act with more urgency. And that is true. You could give him a deal, give him a raise this season after this year. He's a free agent, and you tackle it in the offseason. Let's say he has another big year, then you give him the money. Let's say he doesn't have a good year, he goes into free agency, not the end of the world. I'm not saying that he's not still a top cornerback. I still believe he's one of the better cornerbacks in the league. It's just after an injury season, after a season where you only play 11 games, after a down year, are you going to go all out on a guy? You know what I'm saying? I get it, he's been very good. But are you going to want to really go all out on a guy at 30 years old, about to be 31? It's one of those things where I think the Patriots, they'd be better off giving him maybe just a deal for this year, extending his pay for this season, and he's a free agent at the end of the year. Because after the big offseason they had, you got to focus on training camp now. And this is something that teams never like. Teams don't like this. When you're trying to focus on training camp, trying to focus on getting the team ready for the season, you got a contract situation on your hand. That's not what you want, So we'll see how it all plays out, but definitely an interesting situation there in New England, and let's see if Belichick and the rest of that organization decides to go all out, or let's see if they just try to extend him a little bit and see if he can give them the same production he has in the past seasons. We'll see. All right, so let's get to the New York sports update here to finish off the podcast. Obviously, as for yesterday, Mariners won, Diamondbacks won, Indians won, Nationals won, Rockies won, Blue Jays won, Phillies won, Cardinals won, Orioles won, White Sox won, Brewers won, Rays won, Tigers won, Blue Jays won, Padres won, Phillies won. Mets won 7-6. They moved to 48-42 on the season. Big win for them. A not-so-good series, but they salvaged the final game of that 3-game set. As I mentioned earlier, Yankees win 9-1, so they move to 48-44 on the season. As for today, we got the Twins and White Sox. I'll give the White Sox the win. Nationals, Marlins, I'll give Nationals the win. Blue Jays, Red Sox, give Blue Jays the win. Rays, Orioles, give Rays the win. Tigers, Rangers, give Rangers the win. Braves, Pirates, give Padres, rather. I'll give Padres the win. Astros, Indians, give Cheaters the win. White Sox, Twins, give White Sox the win. Cardinals, Cubs, I'll give Cardinals the win. White Sox, Twins got a doubleheader. Angels, A's, give me the Angels. Ohtani's on the mound. Diamondbacks, Pirates, give Diamondbacks the win. And Dodgers, Giants. Ooh, this is a good one. Gonsolin on the mound versus Gausman. Give me the Dodgers. Give me the Dodgers. That's gonna be a good game though. Mets also play today. Mets come in this game 48-42. Reds come in this game 48-45. This game comes on today, 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find this game on Bally Sports Ohio and SNY. Let's see the pitching here. So the Mets got, it's loading here. All right, so the Mets got Eekhoff on the mound. He's 0-1 with a 4.97 ERA. And the Reds got Gutierrez on the mound. He's 4-3 with a 4.29 ERA. Let's see. 65% of people think the Reds will win. To be honest, as much as I thought the Mets would smoke the Pirates, they were a big disappointment this weekend. As much as I did say it's winnable for the Mets to beat the Reds, after that disappointing weekend in Pittsburgh, I think the Reds are going to win tonight, personally. I do. By the way, DeGrom's back on the IL. Something I didn't mention. He's back on the IL. So something there that to keep your eye out on and see what happens with him. Because yet again, he's back on the IL. Not very good. All right, so let's get to the fantasy baseball here. I lost last week, so I lost 541 to 438. So I moved to 8-6 on the season. Right now, I currently stand as the 5 seed still. So, a big week here. I've got definitely a tough schedule coming up. I'm facing up against the first place person in the other division at 10-4. They are on the season. So, I've got some big games coming up. I've definitely got some big games coming up. Then I face another really good. So, I definitely have a schedule ahead that's not the easiest. So I'm going to have to try to come through. Right now I'm still 3 games back in my division. I'm 8-6. So we'll see how that goes. Luckily, I still feel confident I'll be able to make playoffs. But, these wins would also be big. So right now I'm still 8-6 on the season. Today I've got going Yadier Molina, Matt Olson, Jay Cronenworth, Austin Riley, Marcus Semien, Carlos Correa, Jesus Aguilar, Austin Meadows, Dylan Carlson, Josh Harrison, Franmil Reyes. I will see how everything else goes with Will Smith and all that stuff. I might put him in. Other than that, obviously Luke Voigt hit the IL. So there's obviously Voigt hit the IL. I don't really know if I should. I'll read it to you. Voigt was placed on a 10-day injury list with a bone bruise in his knee, blah, blah, blah. We already know about that. That's old news at this point. We do have an update on Alex Bregman, though. Bregman remains in Houston rehabilitating his strained left quadricep. Chandler Rome of the Houston Chronicle reports. So not a major update there, but he continues to rehab there. And hopefully he's back sooner rather than later as well, because Correa is not hitting well. And I need someone to produce at shortstop. It stinks because my shortstops right now, Semien can play shortstop. He's listed as shortstop. He plays second base, though. But right now, it's interesting because I'm in an interesting situation where none of my shortstops are giving me production. A couple weeks ago, my shortstops were giving me a ton of production. J.P. Crawford, Correa, it was unreal. And I'm looking at the numbers. Crawford, his batting average got all the way up to like the 280s. He's back down in the 270s. He's struggling a little bit. Yesterday, he went like 0 for 5 with a strikeout. So, hitting a little bit of a slump. Correa has been terrible recently. In his last like 10 games or something, I think, he's batting like 1 something. He's been awful. And you look at his recent fantasy stuff, he's been striking out too. Yesterday, he got -2 points. I benched him yesterday. I don't even know if I'm going to put him in today, honestly. I might. I usually put him in, but if he's going to give me negative points, might as well bench him because he's only going to hurt my team. I benched him yesterday. Forget who I put in. I think I put in Crawford for him. Crawford was struggling, but Crawford, he's not striking out as much. He's getting out. He's not hitting, but he's not striking out. If you're going to go over 5, don't go over 5 or 4 strikeouts because strikeout's a -1 point. If you fly out, ground out, or whatever, you don't get any points. So you could go 0 for 5 and get 0 points. I would rather that than get -2 points. Like Correa is striking out a lot. So I'm not going to trade him. I'm not going to release him, but I got to figure out something with shortstop because Crawford's not hitting and Correa's not hitting. And Riley's been hitting recently. Austin Riley, he's been doing really well. So I put him in. I might have had him in yesterday. I already did my lineup, so I don't know if I put him in yesterday. I'd have to go back and check. He's been hitting better. Will Smith had a really good game yesterday. I didn't play Will Smith. I haven't been playing Will Smith. I don't know why. Franmil Reyes has been good in the utility spot. Yadier Molina just seems to get me he seems to get me 1 or 2 points every game. He might not explode for 15 points or 10 points, but he seems to always get me a point or 2 here and there. So he's been pretty consistent. Will Smith, it's not that he's not consistent, but he either gets like 11 points. I guess he's a little inconsistent. He'll get like 11 points one game, and then he'll get like 0 for the next 3. Molina is very consistent. Now, Will Smith's a very good catcher. He's second in position rank. He's done very well, but Molina plays a lot more, and he gets a little bit, like he might not get 10 points, but he's going to go out and get you 1 or 2 points every game. He'll get the job. He might not go out and explode for 20 points, but he'll get you 1 or 2 points that helps out your team. So, that's fantasy. Definitely, shortstop's a little bit of an issue right now. Never thought I'd be saying that, especially once Correa come back. When Correa was hurt, I was like, oh gosh, now he's back, and it's actually hurting me more. So, we'll see. We'll see there. But with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Cole's been pitching very well, which is really helping me a lot in fantasy. Obviously also helping the Yankees. Yeah, as always, hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.